Oh boy, good evening, folks. We're finally getting going here. I apologize to the people who are still tuned in live. Thank you for waiting this out. My camera would not work to save my life. It said my camera wasn't available. I reset this thing about 25 times. We're finally live. So for the people who are still tuned in, welcome to the show. For the people that hopefully we can get back, because I think we had like 25 people at one point tuned in live, and now we only got a couple. But here we are, folks. It's the ARCA Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Colby Evans. This is your Kansas review and Bristol preview. Sorry if I'm a little messy. My hair looks messy. Again, I was kind of running all over the place trying to figure out what the heck was the problem. So, yeah, we're finally getting going. So hopefully everybody's tuned back in. Again, I apologize for the delays. Hopefully we can get back some of the people that we lost, because like I said, we had a lot of people tuned in. This was going to be a big show for you guys tonight. I was excited. We were going to talk about Kansas. We got the E-Series Championship, our first ARCA Championship of the year, wrapping up here. So hopefully we can get back some of the people that we lost, because, man, we've been doing a lot better with this channel lately. There we go. Now we're back to 11 people. Hopefully we can get some more people back in here now that they know we're going live. But yeah, so I'm going to go through my little intro. Again, follow me on social media, Starting Park Car on Twitter, guys. We're almost to 5,200 followers. Let's get there. We're almost to 1,300 subscribers on YouTube, so don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Turn on that bell for all notifications. And, of course, follow the racingexperts.com. They are the official media partner of this podcast. Again, guys, the people who had just tuned in, having really weird camera issues I've never experienced before. I was actually, for the few people who might have saw the tweet, I was actually thinking about postponing the podcast because for some reason, I didn't know what was wrong. And then all of a sudden, my camera started working again. So I quickly deleted that tweet, and here we are. So again, guys, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Kansas. Obviously, you guys know, if you guys followed my account over the weekend, I was there. I did a little bit of helping out for Brad Smith. I was primarily there with Hill Motorsports on the Truck Series side, but I was there for a couple minutes on Brad Smith's side before the truck garage opened. Wanted to help them out for a few minutes. Wanted to get them help set up for the race. They still had the mud flaps on. Yes, Brad Smith showed up to Kansas with the mud flaps from DuQuoin still on the car. So I had to take off. I had to help take off the mud flaps. And that was a chore in itself. Let me tell you, the way that Brad Smith had these mud flaps set up on the car was not the most conventional way, for sure. About as old school as you could get. And me and some of the crew guys, it took a lot of handwork to get them removed. The car was still all dirty. I mean, like I said, Brad, I don't think had time to touch it. Obviously, he's very busy with his, regular working job, and he just didn't have time to get to the car. But it was pretty much still the exact same way it was from DuQuoin, too. They had to do a lot of work to the shocks, a lot of work to the springs. Just a lot of stuff that needed to be changed. And unfortunately, I couldn't help out 100% with that due to my work with Hill Motorsports. Kansas had a pretty decent entry list, much considerably smaller than the spring. We had 22 cars on the initial entry list. 21 would actually show up. We did have one withdraw. I don't know who exactly. It was the 31 of Rita Goulet. They were initially entered, but due to mileage on the motor, they didn't want to risk blowing it up, so they withdrew. 7 cars less than the spring, but still a decent field nonetheless. Obviously, the favorite was Jesse Love. We did not do a show on Thursday, and I apologize for that. The internet connection. The internet connection was iffy at my hotel last Thursday, guys. And unfortunately, my internet connection could not handle a live stream. I tried to do a live stream, and my connection kept going in and out. So I was afraid that if I tried to go live last Thursday, it wasn't going to work. I was afraid that it would be midstream. It would just suddenly die. That's why we didn't do a podcast last Thursday. So I apologize for that. But we had a decent field, guys. Like I said, 21 cars for what it is. We've seen 18 and 19 car fields at Kansas, so I'll take 21 cars. We did have some different entries in the field. We had We had Carson Quapple, Travis's son. Love Carson. He was in the 28 for Pinnacle. Of course, we had Scott Melton back. Mandy Chick, the Kansas native, she was back. Cody Coughlin was back again. Ryan Huff in his own car for Hillenberg was back again. Kevin Hinkle, who usually runs the Kansas races, he was in the 06. Again, AJ Moyer's deal. He was supposed to run this race, but that race got canned because of his crash. Matt Kemp, who's, trying to just get Matt Kemp's kind of like me. He's just trying to get into the world of ARCA after running his dirt tracks. And, of course, Tim Monroe, the guy who does it all at Fast Track. He drives the hauler sometimes. He drives the car, and he pits the car. Tim Monroe really does it all at Andy Hillenberg's team. Got to love him. But, yeah, and, of course, we had Connor Mosek in the 18, as, of course, William Sawalich is not old enough. The favorite going in was Jesse Love. I mean, who else? Jesse Love absolutely dominated this race in the spring. Absolutely dominated this race. There was no doubt in my mind that Jesse Love was going to be the guy to beat for this one. Jesse Love was going to be the guy to beat for this race. However, even in practice, as I was checking the practice sheets, it looked like that it was actually going to be quite close today. In practice speeds, Connor Mosek actually would win practice. And Dean Thompson and Carson Quapple were quite close to the 20 car. So it looked like maybe today the 20 car would not necessarily have been beaten. The guys that were considerably slow in practice, of course, Alex Clubb, Brad Smith, Kevin Hinkle, they definitely were the three stragglers of the pack. It would get worse, I would say, throughout the race, and we'll talk about that in a second, as Tim Monroe and Matt Kemp, who were kind of the middle of the road stragglers, they were the starting parks, so they didn't really matter as much, I should say. They did, but they didn't matter as much. No real incidents in practice. Everyone stayed kind of clean. Same for qualifying as well. Again, I missed all this due to, again, while we were trying to practice and qualify the truck series, we had a hole in our oil tank. Jesse Love would win the pole, again, by blistering 0.3 of a second. So, yeah, like I said, it looked like he was still going to be the dominant car. Dean Thompson was second. Carson Quapple was third. Connor Mosek was fourth. Andres Perez-Delara was fifth. LeVar Scott in a rare main series appearance. Like I said, he was sixth. Frankie Muniz was seventh. Jake Finch. Again, Jake Finch, not been overly impressive on these big tracks. It's clear that Jake Finch is definitely struggling on these big tracks. Nearly a second off of what Jesse Love was running. Christian Rose and Cody Golphin were the top 10. 20 of the 21 cars took a time. The only one who did not take a time was the 06. Now, for this race, I was actually doing some pit work for Brad Smith's team, obviously. The one thing that I can definitely tell you about this race, and it was a consistent part of the whole weekend, was tire wear. Now, these tires were not necessarily cording, but the wear was really bad. And that really hurt the lap cars. The guys that were already off the pace, the guys who may not have the best tires to change anyway, or in Brad's case, us, we didn't have any tires to change. We just continued to get slower and slower and slower, while the bigger teams had the chance to make adjustments and put on fresh tires and go faster. So it looked even worse by comparison. It really did. But yeah, so the race got going. Jesse Love, he had the lead, but surprisingly, I think the most surprising part about this was that although Jesse Love led the initial first lap, we actually had a pass for the lead. Dean Thompson immediately took the lead from Jesse Love, and then Connor Mosek took the lead a lap later. I'm like, holy crap. Jesse Love actually got passed on a 1.5 mile track competitively. We might actually have a race on our hands. And not only did Connor Mosek take the lead, he held it. Like the 18 actually held his lead. Little did we know why, later on, why the 20 was falling back so much. So Connor Mosek held on to the lead for a couple laps. Then Dean Thompson would take the lead on lap 8. He would hold it for quite a while. Again, this race was heavily attrition, and we'll get to all this in a second. We had Tim Monroe and Matt Kemp were the starting parks. Tim Monroe ran 4 laps. Kemp ran 10 laps. And then we had the 19 full race cars out there. It was kind of clear that you had around 13 cars that could run a moderate speed. And then you had the 03, you had the 66 who was just kind of by himself. And then you had the 03, the 48, and the 06 all running within the same speed. And we're all pretty well off the pace. And again, I attribute that to, the 06 and the 48 running legacy motors. And, and Alex Clubb's obviously just doing the best he can. I don't think he's running an Ilmore at this point. I don't think the 03 was running an Ilmore. So, yeah, all three were considerably off the pace. We were. I'm not going to deny the fact that we were off the pace in this race by quite a bit. Probably more than we should have been. But I just attribute that to ARCA just continuing to penalize the legacy motor teams by just adding more weight. If you guys want to know we're running slower, it's because ARCA is not doing us any favors. And it's the one thing that I heavily will keep disagreeing with. I know our cars are not the best prepped. But if giving us back that extra 100 horsepower, maybe we wouldn't be 7 seconds to 8 seconds a lap off the pace. So, to all the people who always give us crap, ARCA's not doing us any favors. Believe me, they're not. If we could have that 100 horsepower that they automatically take from us, we wouldn't be 7 seconds a lap off the pace. We wouldn't. Especially also if they could make tires more affordable as well. So that's just my 2 cents right there. But Jesse Love was actually continuing to fall far behind. He fell behind the 25. He had fallen behind the 18. He'd even fallen behind the 28. And I'm like, man, Jesse Love running outside the top 3 on a intermediate. Something's got to be wrong here. And then we found out why. On lap 23, we probably had one of the biggest shocks of the entire year. Jesse Love actually blows a tire and hits the wall. And I just wonder if it was because of the outrageous camber setups that I know that the 20 team does. I mean, you look on camera when they show the car, the camber setups that they run are like ridiculous. I know it's creativity and, in ARCA, the rules are not as heavy as they are in the NASCAR series where, camber setups and skewing are not, recommended in NASCAR anymore, but they're still allowed in ARCA. And we know that Venturini can sometimes really get outrageous with some of these setups that they're running. And I wonder if, with how bad tire wear was, did they push it too far? Because tire wear, nobody was cording tires. That's what I want to get that out. Nobody was cording tires. It was even wear. But the tires were still wearing badly, is what I'm trying to say. They were still wearing pretty bad, even if it was even wear. They were still wearing bad. When I went over the wall and checked Brad's tires, trust me, I did not think Brad's tires were going to make it the whole run, and maybe that's why Brad wasn't doing well. This stream is lagging for me. Sorry, I'm not trying to make it lag. We're only 13 minutes in. But yeah, I feel like the camber setup. What does lagging mean? Sorry, guys. Is it not working? It's good on my end. What does lagging mean? I'm not kind of a stupid question, but what does lagging mean? Sorry, I don't mean to stop live here, folks. I'm just trying to make sure everything's fine. Like I said, I don't know what's going on tonight. My camera's been so weird. Delay and lag. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, looks like we're good here. Okay, I'm just going to continue. But yeah, I think it was just camber setup is what happened to the 20 car. I think they just got too aggressive with it, with the 20 car. That's what I think happened. The tires were wearing so bad. Jesse ran the car too hard in the first run, and it just blew out. That's what I think happened. I mean, there was no confirmation of it. But what very rare, Jesse Love DNF. And this was not the only problem we saw. Even in the first 10 laps, the pit stall that was right next to us, the 2 car, Andres Perez de Lara literally hit the wall on the first lap. Andres Perez de Lara, he killed his race on the first lap. I think Andres Perez de Lara went through 3 sets of tires in a race where I think you're only allowed like 8. So Andres Perez de Lara, he came down pit road on like the 3rd lap of the race. They were right next to us. So yeah, he crashed about 3 times. His teammate, the 6 of LeVar Scott, he also hit the wall, which caused him to come down pit road. As we'll get to in a second, guys, this was a heavily attrition race. LeVar Scott was actually doing very well for himself. He's been impressive in his main series appearances, honestly. He nearly won Daytona. outright. He finished like top 5 there, and he ran very well in this race. He had great speed, until he hit the wall. Where was I on 9/11? I was a month old, so unfortunately, I don't really have much of a 9/11 story. But yeah, I was, in case you guys were curious, I was a month old when 9/11 happened. So like I said, I got no story on that, unfortunately. So yeah, sorry. I wish I could have given a better story than that. But yeah, at this point, the rev card had issues. Jesse Love was out. Lots of tire issues. From lap 30 to lap 50, again, more tire issues. That's when the 6 had issues. The 12 had went behind the wall for a carburetor issue. And then he got back out on track, which unfortunately killed any good run for Ryan Huff, which really sucked for him because I like Ryan Huff. He only comes out a couple times a year with his own car. So it sucks to see this happen to him. Meanwhile, like I said, the 06, 48, and 03 were just considerably, and I'm being nice. July 2001. I guess I was 2 months old. Sorry. 2 months old. Sorry about that. 2 months old. 2 months and 7 days. 2 months and 9 days. Sorry. July 2001. But yeah, they were getting slower and slower and slower. And I'm like, God, something's got to be wrong here. Either with these cars or tire wear has got to be bad because their lap times were just dropping considerably. And so was the rest of the field. John Garrett in the 66, he just, like I said, he just didn't have anything out there. I don't think there's anything wrong with the engine, but I think tire wear was just so bad. Cody Coughlin, he was actually running one of his better races. He was already up in the top 10. Tony Bredinger was back up in the top 10. Andy Jankowiak was top 5. Like I said, the attrition that we were seeing in this race was astronomical. And then we had the second big tire issue of the race. Frankie Muniz on lap 48, a hard crash coming off of turn 4, which really sucks for Frankie Muniz. The couple of crashes that he has had this year have really torn up his cars, and they're not his fault. I don't think Elko is really his fault, and this one obviously was not his fault because, you can't help a tire going down. It's just wearing. So, I don't really want to give out my actual birthday, but it was just July of 2001. But yeah, it was really bad. Tire wear was really bad in this race. And I don't really attribute it to just General Tire. NASCAR had its fair share of tire problems throughout the weekend as well, from truck to Xfinity to especially the Cup race with tire wear, which I guess is good. We all want a tire that falls off, but we also want a tire that doesn't blow. So it's kind of hard to find that fine line between, a tire that doesn't blow and a tire that can wear and still be in good shape. So yeah, Frankie Muniz, the car was destroyed. Another destroyed car for Rep Motorsports, man. They gotta be, hurting bad right now, honestly. They don't have a lot of sponsorship dollars. When Ford is on the 30 car, they got no sponsorship. As far as I know, there's no sponsorship dollars coming in for that. That's just, I think, to make the car look nice, if I'm being honest. I think it's just to make the car look nice. And it's a shame, too, because with the proper funding, I think Frankie Muniz could be a hell of a lot more competitive this year. But they just don't have the proper funding to, be competitive. I think they're just showing up to all these races because it's Frankie effing Muniz. You cannot skip a race with him in the car. I think Ford is helping them, but it's nowhere near enough money. It's nowhere near enough money to get him go. Yeah, Frankie did have a big sponsor at the beginning of the year, but then that fell through. They've only had about 4, 5, 6 races this year with actual sponsorship. I think they're just showing up because, like I said, it's Frankie Muniz, and ARCA needs him there. So it also counted as the lap 50 yellow. So by this point, we still had about 17 cars left on track, but it was definitely interesting to see at this point. Dean Thompson, who had led 34 straight laps on lap 41, he had a flat tire. He had to come down pit road. He lost 2 laps under green, which effectively killed his run. So as of now, we're not even halfway through this race, and Venturini's already done. They can't win. We kind of knew Bredinger was not going to go up there and win. We just kind of knew that wasn't going to happen. And Jake Finch, who just has not been impressive on the ovals, we knew he probably wasn't going to win either. So it's like, man, JGR might actually get a win this year. Connor Mosek finally might win. Unless Carson Koffel can do anything about it. So we get back going again. The 2-car knocks the wall down. Again, he hit the wall again for a third and final time. I was watching the crew chief, and I finally saw him give the cut signal to his crew, which meant the 2-car was done for the day. Andres nursed it back to the garage. So, yeah, like I said, you had the top 3 in points crash out of this. The top 3 in points, I think, crashed out of this race. Not very often does that happen in the ARCA series, where the top 3 crashes out just after halfway. So, like I said, this race was getting weird. And, of course, with the lack of cars and the lack of, like I said, cautions, the field was getting really spread out. Andy Jankowiak had a problem, too, from the restart. He went 3 laps down. I don't remember why. He just randomly went 3 laps down. I don't know if they could get the car started or what, but like I said, he went 3 laps down. Kevin Hinkle, the car was vibrating the entire race. The car was jumping out of gear, so he eventually retired the car. So at this point, we were literally down to just 15 cars, spread out across a 1.5-mile track. But yet the attrition rate was still through the roof. Dean Thompson, who was still kicking off blistering lap times, he had to come down pit road again. LeVar Scott, he had to come down pit road again, so he lost his lap. He went a lap down. At this point, we're sitting here with about 20 laps to go, and your top 5 is literally Connor Mosek, Carson Kvapil, Cody Coughlin, Tony Bredinger, and Christian Rose are your top 5 with 20 laps to go. And I'm just thinking to myself, what the heck is happening here? This is crazy. The attrition rate, I've never seen an ARCA race at Kansas with this much of an attrition rate. Seeing these kinds of people in the top 5, you just would not expect that in a race like this. And then, of course, more attrition kept happening. Jake Finch was able to get by Christian Rose. Poor Cody Coughlin had fuel pressure issues in the final 10 laps. So that shot Tony Bredinger up to 3rd, literally 3rd place for the badass-looking Raising Cane's car. In my opinion, best-looking ARCA car of the year was that red Raising Cane's car. And meanwhile, we had a battle up for the lead. Carson Kvapil, despite it being his very first start on 1.5 miles, he was racing 1.5 miles like he had been racing them his whole career. And the only reason why I think Connor Mosek beat Carson is because he has had previous 1.5 mile experience, and he used that to his advantage. He just knew how to place it on the long run. We saw the 28 making a dash. He got within 0.6 of a second. But I think Carson Kvapil made the classic rookie mistake of using his stuff up. I think, unfortunately, that is exactly what happened to Carson Kvapil. We've seen that done by multiple rookies throughout the years where they unfortunately use up their stuff way too hard, way too fast, and it bit the 28 team. And the 18 was able to gradually pull farther and farther away until eventually I think he won the race. Looking at the results, he won the race by, over 3 seconds. So the 28 used up his whatever he had left, and then that was it. Then the 18 just continued to pull away. So, meanwhile, all that's happening. Tony Bridinger's up to 3rd. They actually lapped Tony Bredinger. Like I said, not only was the attrition rate so high, they were literally lapping cars. They lapped Christian Rose. They lapped Jake Finch. They lapped LeVar Scott. Or I guess LeVar Scott was already a lap down, and he had driven back up to 4th, which shows you that he had a good car. And Tony Bredinger, they literally lapped her with 3 laps to go. 3rd place got lapped with 3 laps to go. Connor Mosek cruises to one of the weirdest ARCA wins I'm sure that we've ever seen. And I believe this is his first ARCA victory. And surprisingly, and I really say this with absolute surprise, shockingly, this is the only 3rd. And yes, I know it's hard to believe. We are 17 races into this season, but this is the only 3rd victory for the 18 team in the main division. No, they've got a couple of East wins, But hard to believe that this is only the third win for the 18 team this year. That is so hard to believe that William Sawalich has only won 2 main races and Connor Mosek has won this one. That is really hard to believe. I like your shirt. Oh, my shirt? Oh, yeah, if you guys want to see my shirt, here, I'll stand up for a second. Remember the old America's Incredible Pizza Company? Scott Legacy Jr. 11 car? That's this shirt. I got it from a friend for Christmas. Yeah, it's probably one of my favorite shirts in my collection. Pretty rare, too. It was my favorite car as a kid, was the America's Incredible Pizza Company car. But yes, back to the race. Yeah, Connor Mosek wins, gets his very first ARCA win. Carson Quaffel, in a very impressive debut, finishes second. Tony Bredinger gets third. She gets a third in the Raising Cane's car. Good for her. LeVar Scott gets fourth. And I'll say this. It took all that attrition for Jake Finch to get a top 5. In my opinion, that doesn't say much. If it took all of this attrition just to get Jake Finch a 5th place finish, in my opinion, that does not bode well. That does not bode well at all for Jake's future if he wants to be competitive on big ovals. You can't just be a short track master like he is. Jake Finch is great on short tracks, but he has not been doing well on these bigger tracks at all. But yeah, Christian Rose got 6th. Scott Melton, he gets a 7th place, so great run for the Kimmel team. Dean Thompson was able to recover to 8th. Mandy Chick, a good run for her. She gets 9th. Andy J at least gets a top 10. Poor Cody Coughlin, top 3 finish, got taken away, down to 11th. John Garrett, like I said, he was just kind of out there by himself. He couldn't run with anybody, but he was faster than the stragglers. Despite saying it was the worst car he'd ever driven, Alex Clubb finished the race. So did Brad, both 14 laps down. In fact, Ryan Huff and Brad and Alex all finished on the same lap, 14 laps down. That's how slow Brad and Alex were going, that Ryan nearly passed him again. Then, of course, Hinkle, Delara, Muniz, Love, and Kemp and Monroe were all the DNFs. Overall, and I know this is weird, and I know this is going to be weird me saying this, this was actually probably one of the better Kansas ARCA races we've seen in a while. And I really mean that. Because if you saw the race in the spring, it really was kind of a stinker with Jesse Love just dominating the whole thing. Dean Thompson was kind of there in the end, and so was kind of Taylor Gray, but we knew Dean Thompson was not going to pass him. And even last September, Corey Heim led 101 of the 103 laps. So, as weird as it was to say, despite only 2 cars finishing on the lead lap, this was probably the best Kansas ARCA race we've seen in a while. And that is very weird of me to say, but it's true. This has been the best Kansas ARCA race since the 2022 spring race, 4 races ago. So, like I said, and unfortunately, people are going to use the whole 2 cars on the lead lap thing as a joke. I mean, heck, I probably shouldn't say this, but I will. There were NASCAR officials joking about the race the next morning, and I overheard it in the garage. So even NASCAR officials are joking about ARCA. Then why'd you buy the series then? That's all I'm going to say. If your own officials are joking about the series, what does that tell you? That tells me all I need to know. If you got NASCAR officials laughing about the series. But, I mean, it's not like we were going to only have 2 cars. We're only going to have 2 cars on the lead lap. Obviously, the 20 would have been on the lead lap. Obviously, the 6, 2, 25 were all going to be lead lap cars. They all had problems. Frankie Muniz probably would have been a 1-lap down car. So the results would not have looked, like I said, as bad. Cody Coughlin, had he finished the race, would have been a lead lap car. So it was attrition that gave us. People are going to look at these results and think, oh my God, 2 cars were just better than the whole field. No. So again, that's why I hate some people who look at these ARCA results. No, you got to watch the race and really look at it like, wow, there was a huge attrition rate. These were the 2 cars that didn't have problems, and all these other cars who weren't going to be competitive came out with good runs, which they did. And for the first time, I think since Phoenix, Jesse Love actually lost points in the championship battle. Even though Frankie Muniz, still finished one spot above him, and Dallara. I mean, the one race they had to gain points on Jesse Love, and they barely finished ahead of him. So, yeah, one of the weirder races of the year, for sure. Kansas was something else. We'll talk about the point standings when we get to our Bristol portion. But yeah, Kansas was fun. Just big tire wear, I think, definitely played a factor in the race. But still, I wouldn't say bad at all. I would give it 6, 7 out of 10, which is moderate. I think moderate. I think it was good. Yeah, you're right. It felt like an old school Winston Cup Series race. And this is the one thing I want to say to all the people who crap on ARCA. For all the people who have a problem with the way the series is today, where it's a 2 to 3 car show every single week, you're basically admitting that you would have hated NASCAR from the 1940s, 50s, 60s, into early 70s, when realistically, there were only 2 to 3 cars that could actually win those races on a weekly basis. And then you'd have the occasional upset winner. That's how it was back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and early 70s. So for all the people who say they love old school and they love history, that's ARCA today. Brad Smith and Wayne Peterson represent the low-budget guys of the 1950s. Jesse Love and Venturini are the Richard Pettys of the 1950s, dominating every single week because they got the best equipment. It's that simple. It is that simple. But yet people say, oh, I'd love to go watch a race from the 1960s. No, you wouldn't. That's why I say some NASCAR fans are fickle. You would complain just as much if you were to go back and watch a race from the 1960s. You'd be like, oh, this is boring. Richard Petty's leading every lap. That's just how it goes sometimes. So that's all I can say to those people who just constantly complain about this series. God. All right, guys. So that was Kansas. Fun race. Weird race. Very wacky race. And now we're come to the race where I'm sure you guys really came to talk about Bristol. Yes, I'm sure this is the one race where you guys came to really hear me talk about, really discuss with me. Yes, Bristol Motor Speedway. Yeah, even our ARCA races are more competitive than F1. That's what I'll give us. Our race has passing. F1 does not. But yeah, so we're going to talk about Bristol now, guys. We have a lot to discuss here. We have the E-Series Championship wrapping up. 32 car field, a very big field for this race. Yeah, I can't say enough, guys. I am so excited for this race. After some struggling entry lists, it's great to see ARCA with its biggest field at Bristol in its history. 2020 had 26 cars, and 2021 and 2022 had 31. This year, guys, we got 32. A very, very solid field. And honestly, guys, I would say this is one of the more wide open races we got. I really do. In terms of, usually we see just a Venturini brigade. Joe Gibbs will have 2 cars. Yeah, Venturini does have 4 cars entered for this race. They do. But Joe Gibbs Racing does not have the 81 entered for this race. And that's going to be a very key factor, I believe, in this race, is the fact that the 81 car is not entered. And I'm curious on how the other Venturini cars will race this one, because Bristol is one of those races for the ARCA schedule. It's a crown jewel win on the ARCA schedule, that's for sure. Going over the entry list, folks, this will be as follows. Again, this is a long entry list, so bear with me. The 1 of Jake Finch, the 2 of Andres Perez de Lara, Landon Pembleton. Remember him? He ran for Venturini last year. That was kind of an ugly split. He is now running for Willie Mullins' team this weekend. LeVar Scott, of course. D.L. Wilson, great to see him back after his nasty crash at Phoenix. In the 10, Zachary Tinkle, of course, runs the East Circuit for Andy Hillenberg. Ryan Roulette is back in the 12. That's his own car under Andy Hillenberg. Sean Hingarani, of course, in the 15. Caden Honeycutt. Yes, Caden Honeycutt will be in the 17 for MMI and Steve McGowan's operations. Of course, William Sawalich in the 18. Jesse Love in the 20. Connor Jones in the 25. Our man, Luke Fenhouse in the 28. Frankie Muniz, still unsponsored. No sponsor for this race in the 30. Rita Goulet in the 31. Again, she's on the East Tour. Christian Rose. Greg Van Alst. Great to see Greg back. in the 35. Matt Gould, he'll be in the 42, the teammate car, the other MMI Bruce Cook organization car. Good old Brad Smith in the 48. Jack Wood, yes, Rev Racing with 3 cars for this race. 3 cars for this race. If you guys want to know, it's the 51. Obviously, we know that Rev Racing is getting a lot of help from KBM with their truck efforts. Matt Gould is going to be a starting park. Why the heck would Matt Gould be a starting park? Why would they not do that? That doesn't make any sense to me right there, but we'll continue on. So we have 3 Rev cars in the field. Tony Bredinger, of course, in the 55, like we figured. John Garrett in the 66. Mike Basham's in the 69. This likely will be a Brad Smith car again, because the crew chief is Brad's crew chief. So I think this is going to be Brad's going to be bringing 2 cars to this one. Unless it's going to be the same car from Flat Rock and that Will ran at DuQuoin, and Brad's just going to be looking after it. Again, I don't know exactly how they're going to do it. Andy Jankowiak in the 73. Great to see Chuck Buchanan Jr. back in the 87 after an engine failure. They're great to see them back. Caleb Costner in the 93. Tanner Arms in the 95. Landon Lewis. Kind of weird not seeing him in his MMI car. He's going to be in the CR7 car. Doesn't really matter. It's a Chevrolet operation as well, so it's still good to see him there. Of course, Dale Shear. Tim Monroe will be in the 01. Obviously, Tim's just trying to keep up his E-Series points. Alex Clubb in the 03, and AJ Moyer in the 06. So, like I said, guys, a big field of cars. It's due to lack of sponsorship. Wow, that's I didn't see that. Man, that really sucks. That really sucks to hear. That they're going to run that race for just a starting park. Well, I guess we can add him to the list. So, unfortunately, I would obviously say that the starting parks, I'll say this, I don't think the 03 is going to make it the full distance. I don't think the 31 is going to make it the full distance. I don't think the 48 is going to make it the whole distance. The 06 might make it the full distance, although if they're bringing the black Ford, I don't know if that car will make the distance. We know the 42. We know the 42 will not make it the full distance. So of our 32 cars, yeah, we'll probably have some starting parks in there. Yeah, we'll probably have some cars that won't be able to go the whole race, which does suck. But I mean, that's, like I said, that's just bound to happen. So probably about 5 or 6 cars will be starting parking. I think the 03 will try the whole distance, but I just don't think he'll make it the whole distance. Same with Brad. They're going to try, but I don't think they'll make it. They'll probably get parked. I don't think Tim Monroe is going to run the whole distance. Zachary, do you know if Tim's running the whole? If Zachary Tinkle in the right, do you know if Tim's running the distance or not? Let's see here. Who else? The 69, he'll know he'll be a starting park. 31, she won't be a starting park, but she's not going to make it the whole distance. I don't think Rita will. She's probably got about 25 cars that'll be running the distance. But I would easily say that there's quite a few cars that have a legit shot to be decided on Tim. Okay, well, I hope Tim does. We hope so. But I will say there's quite a few cars, in my opinion, that got a legit chance at this one. We have seen this year that the 18 has not been as strong. We know that it's been strong on short tracks, but we know that this is kind of a track where the field is really evened up. You don't necessarily need an A-plus motor to get around Bristol. If you have a decent motor, you can still win this race. So I would say we got a really open field for this one. I mean, the potential winners for this race, I would say Jake Finch, Andres Perez de Lara. I'll throw in Landon Pembleton. Willie Mullins, they go all out for these races. LeVar Scott, Sean Hingarani, Caden Honeycutt, William Sawalich, Jesse Love, Connor Jones, Luke Fenhouse. I would say throw in Jack Wood. Maybe Andy Jankowiak as an underdog. And Landon Lewis. So I would say we got a lot of potential winners for this one. Absolutely would say. I would say we got a lot of potential winners for this one. I'm not going to give it to Sawalich because I'm telling you guys, we have the East Series Championship. This is going to be on the line for this one. This is a combo race, and coming into this one, William Sawalich has a 20-point lead over Luke Fenhaus. Now, the championship scenarios were posted to ARCAracing.com. A 15th place for Sawalich would open the door for Fenhaus to win the title via a tiebreaker. So if Fenhaus were to win the race and gain all possible bonus points for a general tire pole award, leading a lap, and the most laps, he would equal Sawalich's season-long total of wins, 3, top 5s, 7, and would pull ahead in top 10s. Now, obviously, that's asking a lot out of Fenhaus to do all that in a strong field. But the Pinnacle Racing Group has shown that they can really do it. Sawalich, like I said, I mean, he just needs to finish 14th or better to clinch the championship. No matter what Fenhaus does, all the 18 has to do is finish 14th or better. But yeah, so it's going to be tough. I definitely think it's going to be tough, but there's a chance. There really is a chance here. And I'm telling you, it's 18th. Yeah, 18th or better, Fenhaus does not win. Yeah. So I think it's doable. And the reason why I'll say this, despite the 18 and the 28 going after the Drivers' Championship, we have a very, very close Owners' Championship that is going to be looked after as well. And the Owners' Championship, guys, is really close. We have a 3-way battle for the Owners' Championship. Of course, the 18 and the 28. But the 20, yes, the Venerini 20 car, which is run full-time East, is in line for the Owners' Championship. They are only 15 points behind. 15 points behind the 18 car. And as we've seen, and as we saw back at Milwaukee, the 18 and the 20 are not afraid to mess with each other. And I'm telling you guys, I think it's going to get ugly. Because anytime big money is on the line, and this is where the big money really is. You know, these Owners' Championship payouts, this is really where the money comes in the ARCA Racing Series. It's true. I mean, anyone will tell you that. That's where guys like Brad and Wayne get their money from. So yeah, I'm telling you guys, I think it's going to get ugly. Not only do we have the 18 versus the 28, but we have the 18 versus 20 versus 28 for the Owners' Championship. I really do think the S is going to go down. You know, I'm not afraid to say I think we're going to see something weird. It would not shock me if that 18 gets wrecked like in the first 15 laps. Would not shock me at all. Because we know Venturini, they can play a little dirty sometimes. They can. We know they can. We've seen it out of them. You know, I love Bill, and we know what Billy can do sometimes. We do. We've seen it. So, but yeah. So, I'm just curious. Yeah, I know some cars will get parked on speed. Yes, I'm sure that'll happen. Trust me. I don't think a lot of cars will end up finishing that race. But that Owners' Championship, like I said, man, it's going to get ugly. It is going to get ugly, and I think it's just going to further the battle between the 18 and the 20 even harder. Even harder. We know that Jesse Love is going to win the Drivers' Championship in the main division, but that main division Owners' Championship is also heating up as well. Right now, we obviously know that the 20 car is ahead, but the last thing, and I mean the last thing, they had over a 27-point lead. We forgot to talk about this about Kansas, but the 20 car had a 27-point lead in the main division owner points. They lost almost that entire gap due to the Kansas crash. Now the 18 car in the main series owner points is only 7 points away with just 3 races left. Just like Toledo last year, guys, it is literally going to come down to the last race of the year to see who is going to win this Owners' Championship. And just like last year, I think it's going to get ugly. And it's not going to be pretty, which means it's going to be entertaining for us. So, Yeah, and then of course for the E Series, the top 5 in points do get a little bit of a bonus. So you got Tim Monroe and Dale Shear trying to stay ahead of Sean Hingorani. They got Dale Shear, like I said, he's trying to close in the top 5. You got a 9-point lead. Tim Monroe does over Dale Shear, and he's got a 19-point lead over Hingorani. So Monroe might be able, he just might be able to stay inside that top 5. It all depends on Sean Hingorani wrecks himself out again, which he might do. He might do. Like I said, guys, it's going to be crazy. You know, and I think the one difference we have last year is, you guys remember, the 81 car was nothing but a placeholder. The 81 car in 2021 with Sammy Smith was a placeholder for Ty Gibbs. In 2022, the 81 car, Brandon Jones, was a placeholder for Sammy Smith. This year, there's no placeholder. There is no placeholder to protect William Sawalich. He is out there on his own. And all I can say is this. It is 4 Venturini cars versus 1 Venturini car. Or 4 Venturini cars versus 1 Gibbs car. And I'm telling you, if I'm Sawalich, man, you better keep as many eyes in your mirror as you can, because, like I said, when it comes down to the money, it gets ugly. Really ugly. So, yeah. So, God, who to give a race-winning pick? You know, it's funny. I'm not going to go with Sawalich. I'm not going to go with Jesse Love. I'm going to go with my man. I'm going to go with Luke Fenhouse. I'm going for it. I think, you know, Pinnacle, they're going to throw everything at this race. My pick for this race is Luke Fenhouse, and I think Luke Fenhouse is going to win the E-Series championship. That is my pick. Luke Fenhouse is going to win this race on Thursday. If you want an underdog pick, I'm going to take Caden Honeycutt. Yep, I'm going to take Caden Honeycutt as my underdog pick in the 17. And yes, and that is interesting to note too. Venturini has not won Bristol, and they actually, to be honest with you, have not run very well at Bristol. Last year in this race, Jesse Love only finished 10th. So Venturini, they got to step it up for this race too. Like I said, guys, we really have something special brewing on Thursday. I don't know if it's something good. I don't know if it's something stupid. We'll find out. But, yeah, I think Venturini, I think they find a way to win this Owners' Championship. It's going to be a lot of fun, guys. The payouts for the race, we'll go ahead and talk about that real quick, too. Obviously, the payouts are something that, you know, a lot of the teams in the garage are starting to, you know, worry about. They do, and I agree, even by $1,000, an extra $1,000 would be so much for these guys on a weekly basis. They have no idea how much that would help with travel costs and trying to improve the car. Just an extra $1,000 would go such a long way. Because the payout for this race is only $10,000. With all contingency award, it's $19,350. I mean, this race, this race at a minimum, guys, should not be paying any worse than $35,000. I don't see any reason why this race cannot be paying $35,000 to win. Second place is $6,000. Third place is $3,500. With contingency awards, second place is $9,400. Third place is $5,350. Last place, 32nd, pays $1,450. And again, guys, my personal problem I have with the payout system is the fact that this last place, okay, 32nd will get $1,450. Last place. The car that finishes fifth place, okay, fifth place, gets $550 more. So from fifth place to 32nd is a difference of $550. That is a problem. That, in my personal opinion, that is a problem. That is unacceptable. And, you know, like I said, for the people who say I only say positive things about this series, I don't. I've been negative on this series before, but that, in my personal opinion, that's a joke. That is an absolute joke. That's an insult. And that is an insult to the teams that try their hardest to run top 5 and top 10 when last place is getting only $550 less than what fifth place is getting. That is a problem. We need to solve that problem. That is on ARCA. They need to improve that 100%. Like I said, first place, 35,000. Second place, 20,000. Third place, 15,000. Fourth place, 10,000. Fifth place, 5,000. And then you can kind of go down how you wish. But that is how the top 5 should be getting purse money for a race like this. So, yes, I know the bonus money the teams get too every week, it helps, but it's still not enough. Like I said, guys, the series is not perfect. I try to remain as positive as I can for you guys, but there are just some times in the series where it's frustrating. And seeing the fact that fifth place is only getting just a little bit more it's frustrating, guys. It really is frustrating. Yeah. Oh, we got a question on the fish. Got a question on that fish. That's my dad's fish. It's been it's kind of a fun backdrop, isn't it? It's been the backdrop of the show since day one. My dad caught that fish a couple of years ago. Yeah, so kind of a fun backdrop because you got a fish right there, and you got my sheet metal, my MBM sheet metal collection right there. So, and you got my dad. Yes, that's my dad and Haley Deegan right there in that photo. So, yeah, perfect design area, isn't it? It's a unique set. So, but yeah, guys, our ARCA's got to do something about this. I mean, we're going to be complaining about this forever, but I think we have every right to complain. I mean, it's just not fair. It's not fair that the team that's going to finish in fifth place gets a whopping $550 more than last. That's a problem. That's unacceptable. And the series has got to do something about that, or you're going to see the continuation of declining car counts, which I don't want to see. I love this series. This was the very first stock car series I watched. I watched ARCA before NASCAR. My grandfather took me to my first race. It was an ARCA race. The next day, I watched my first Cup race. I was hooked. But I always say it, my first stock car race was ARCA, not Cup. That's why I love the series so much. But now that I know that this is how they're paying out their teams, I'm not shocked that the car counts have declined this much. The series deserves, the teams deserve better than this for all their hard work. So I hope we can improve something in the future. I really hope we can. So I hope it can change. I hope something changes. I hope something changes for the better. But there's no doubt in my mind, guys, we are going to see one hell of a race on Thursday night. It is on FS1, so I'm sure if you guys have FS1, it's at 5 p.m. So, again, guys, it's going to be on kind of early. So if you're going to get home from work, set your DVRs, get it ready and watch it, man, because it's going to be a fun race. Thursday is going to be it's Bristol. It's Bristol, baby. We all love Bristol. It's Bristol, baby. You got to love it, man. ARCA, Trucks, Xfinity, Cup. It is Bristol, baby. We're going to have ourselves a very fun weekend of short track racing. Cup Series, maybe not. But we know the other 3 series will deliver on good racing. The Cup Series, we'll wait and see. But we know the other 3 series will give us 3 entertaining races. So, yeah, guys, I thank you all for who have stayed with me live. Coming on the air 26 minutes late. 26 minutes late is completely unacceptable on my end. I still do not know what happened with my camera. I'm just thankful we were able to get it going. But yeah, to everyone who watched live tonight, thank you for your patience. I can't thank you guys enough for this show. To the people who were going to watch live, but it wasn't working, so you tuned out. I'm sorry. It will never happen again. I'll try to make sure it never happens again. I hope you guys watch this show later on for the people who missed this show live. Yeah, and for the people who have been watching the show since day one, thank you guys. Because, if for the people who haven't realized it, we've now been doing the show two full years. 2 full years we've been doing this show. And I'm proud to say it's really helped. It's really helped. Really helped out my career. It's really helped out my standing in the garage area, and it's all thanks to your guys' support. The more people we get watching, the more supporters we get, the better it is for all of us. So Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. I know this wasn't the most ideal of circumstances, but yeah. Hope you guys have a great rest of your Tuesday night. Not sure what we're going to do for backmarker battles. We might be forced to do it tomorrow. So if that's the case, join me here live tomorrow at 7 p.m. Central Time for backmarker battles. And if we don't do it tomorrow, then unfortunately we just might not have time to do it. So yeah, guys, have a great rest of your Tuesday night. I'm Colby Evans. I'm starting Park Car, and I'm signing off. So long, guys, and have a great night. And I'm getting out of here. So long, guys.